recipients of the People's Choice Award. Anyways.
This is Dislove, and I'm Samuel Schoenberger.
I'm Joseph Jakubowski.
I'm Megan Lowther.
I'm Kayla Cook.
And this is Mythbusters. Combustion Buster started out as a sim game, basically. And you were supposed to have, like, a house, and you could either power it with, like, fossil fuels, or you could power it with, like, solar power or energy like that. And you would, like... I think the carbon idea was still under the smog we had at some point.
Foggy windows instead of clear.
Yeah, something like that. So we had the forming of Combustion Buster when we made this first idea. And then we threw it out the window when we realized it would actually be, a challenge to make. So then we decided to make something harder, and we made something based off Mega Man, and that barely made it into the art phase before we realized that wasn't good enough either, and we weren't really making something original. So then we finally stumbled on the idea for a Combustion Buster, and it's a top-down scrolling shooter reminiscent of the Atari ages, like Wing Commander and all that fun stuff. But you should be seeing pictures on the screen at this point showing it. And that's basically the idea we had was you shoot down things that were harming the environment. Originally this was going to be much more detailed. We were going to have like this forest like background. We were going to have like clouds in the background. We'd have trees covering the border so it didn't look like you were in a game. It looked like you were actually looking at this. And it would have made a lot more sense. And we just kept changing it. So originally it was like you were like a freedom fighter taking down like oil workers and lumberjacks, and then Joe like immediately pointed out they're probably not evil. They're probably just doing their job. So then that changed to become you're shooting down oil refineries that were moving around somehow, something like that, Joe?
Yeah, it was something like that. Then we took that idea out of the way because it just seemed kind of dumb to have buildings as enemies.
Yeah.
So eventually we ended up with sort of pollution-based enemies. So we have ozone holes, smog monsters. We did throw in a fat cat just for a jab at corporations because it was funny.
And, all of the changes that we made to the game based on difficulties and challenges and deciding what we can actually do, that was also part of the design process.
Yeah.
Taking what we have and taking these ideas and making it work.
I think overall we're all happy with everything that went into it, and I think Kayla wants to talk about music.
So, you find that in everyday life, you always have a song stuck in your head. Or you think of music at least once a day. I mean, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We were considering having original music, and seeing as I had never done coding or anything really related to video games other than music, they were like, yeah, we can have original music. But the gravity of having original music is very, very large. It's very vital because if you think about it, when people have songs stuck in their head, they'll think about where they heard that song. If I heard a song that was played at a prom that I went to, I would think about that prom. And then I'd just think about everything about high school. The music is a memory trigger, and since our video game had that, we were able to pull it.
So, Megan, you focused most of your attention on the research component. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. My role in this project was largely keeping the other people on task as well as the research component.
Is that true?
But within the research component, I looked at a lot of different sources and learned a lot actually about how video games can teach children in ways that cannot be taught in a standard learning environment, and how a lot of teachers want to add this technical learning level to their levels of teaching. And our game, catering to the 8 to 13 age bracket, teaches children not only structurally about the fossil fuel levels and the amount of energy that we consume and how it affects the environment, but also it teaches them about choices and decision making and a lot of different sub-levels that aren't directly related to learning objectives set forth by the state, which our game did cover 2 of the North Carolina state learning objectives for Earth and Environmental Science.
So finally, least but not last, Joe did most of the art for this, and by most I mean 100% of the art for this. What was it like making art for a game?
It was definitely a challenge. I'd done graphic design before for like a theater my school theater company. And so that was a lot of fun. So I, was of course all over this, but I had to learn how to do pixel art, which is just a whole challenge in itself, trying to use squares to create shapes, basically.
What was the average time that it took for you to make each artwork, and which one was the most difficult?
It depended on the detail of the sprite. A simple sprite like the little burning coal could take 10, 20 minutes. But the hardest one to make was the final boss, the octopus, which also is not just a random octopus. It's actually from an old political cartoon about the Rockefeller Oil Company. And that boss, because of the amount of detail I wanted to put into it, took about 3 hours.
So if we had to give advice to next year's freshmen and beyond,
I definitely say start early. I was taking up whole Saturdays to do sprites because I had waited so long to do them.
Definitely take failures and setbacks in stride, and try not to get hung up on how long it takes you to have a simple meeting on a Sunday, or solving a basic problem, and realize that it's all going to come together in the end, even if you're fixing things on that day.
I would say stick with your team, regardless of first impressions. I knew all of my team members already, so I was pretty lucky, and they're usually nice.
And to round this off with the most ambiguous one, I'd say overall, try to have some fun while you're doing this.